Yes, we're having a conversation with Tanika. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Real South Africa Travel and Tourism. Because here in South Africa, I know America very well, extremely well. I spent 40-something years there. I spent many years here. There are levels to this thing here in South Africa. And the average American, and let's be honest, the average American middle class can do very well here in South Africa.
Yeah, 100%. That's
Easily.
without a doubt.
I'm talking about whatever level you think you are, you can multiply that by several numbers just by starting to visit. Because I noticed you said that you came here for years.
Yeah.
And I've came here for years, so we do have that in common. That's probably why we're actually sitting here, because we didn't just show up tomorrow and just say, okay, now I'm going to set up my whole shop like the way I do in America. You got an understanding of Africa and South Africa before you even could even talk the way that you're talking.
Yeah.
And I had to get an understanding, and I do have a good understanding of South Africa. Do I have a perfect example? No.
Right.
But I have my example, and I think it carries me pretty far to that point. So I tell people all the time, you have to do like what you're doing today and visit.
Yeah.
You have to spend that time. You got to come and touch the people, drink the water, eat the food, do all this stuff. And then whenever you're ready to make that transition, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So because you've been coming back and forth for all these years, it makes sense to us that you decided just now. It wasn't like on your first visit you're like, hey, I want to move, or even before your first visit you're like, hey, I think I would want to live in South Africa. It took a while to get to that point. So talk to the people about the process of saying, after all your visits, that this is where you've chosen.
I mean, I think like Arthur and Jackie, when they came and they were like, Jackie was telling me that she was like crying. She didn't leave.
Oh, I remember. Because she came to us.
She was definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember the very first time, like, feeling that experience. It wasn't the first time I'd been, but I remember feeling like that. There is something about it that feels very much like home. And I felt like it was a place that I could live. It just didn't make sense in my mind, like logistically, right? It's just like where I'm gonna work, what I'm gonna do. I'm not independently wealthy, I'm not generationally wealthy. Like, how does this work? And so I think once you cross that hurdle of like, oh, there are aspects of this that can work, and it's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
For us, like, we're very much still in our working years. And because I know my husband's watching this, and he's like, I'm very much working. And he very much, he loves his job, very much working. I think for us, it was about the market made so much more sense here, right? You can't even get a toilet in New York City for what it costs to even buy land here.
Yeah.
And so I think that the U.S. dollar to rand worked in our favor.
Sure.
And it was just about like, we can start sowing the seeds, buy the land, we have the land, build the home. What does it look like if we're coming here 6 or 7 times a year, that we're coming to a house, that that we have our stuff in, that we love. What does that look like over 5 years? Then what does that look like over 10 years? And then what does it mean to retire early, maybe at 50? My husband thinks he's going to work forever, but or what does a second iteration of work look like? I think specifically for him, I'm already in my second iteration.
Amen.
But like, what does the second iteration of work look like for him? And maybe that's for him, that's 50, maybe that's 55. But like, we have sown our seed, the seeds here. And I think that was the issue for us. Was like, how are we going to make this work for us as people who, I'm in my 30s. Like, what is that? Like, if I stop working, it ain't no money. It's like, what does that look like? And I think once we figured that out, then the rest made sense, because it was accessible for us. It was affordable for us. There are a couple of logistics that we'll have to figure out over time, like the temporary residency and like permanent residency and all of those like kind of things. But for now, I think it's amazing. That's incredible.
No, and I appreciate that simply because in part of your plan, you understand it's not a flash to bang type of situation.
That's right.
It is a process.
It's a process.
And I think that when we talk to people about their process, that it needs to be a process. It needs to not be something that you want to do in 6 months, because it's not that kind of party at all. South Africa has their own processes, their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
If you have not visited enough time to know how things work, you are going to be that person that sits on YouTube and starts bashing the country because you don't have a proper understanding. And I think that's where the misunderstanding comes for the people that do have negative reactions, is because they're not educated on how things actually work before they get there, or even in their coming and going. It needs to be, how can I gain more understanding as I continue to visit? Because you have to learn every time that you're here. I know that every time you come, you experience different things, but at the same time, in that experience, you're like, what is my takeaway while I'm here? You're not here just like your takeaway this time was you need to understand how building works. What does it mean to grab an architect? What does it mean to look at home furnishings? That's your takeaway this time. So I appreciate you understanding that it's not a flash to bang situation, that needs to be understood for everybody else that's watching this video.
I mean, there are times I wish it was flash to bang.
But that's our American.
That's the American is coming out. Right?
Yeah, we felt the same way. We
don't
felt
talk about
trust
that.
me. We were sitting there in 2013 in Cape Town, living on a flat that was literally on First Beach. The South Africans know, in Clifton. I mean, it doesn't get any more hoity-toityer than that. It just doesn't. And we're watching the waves come in, and it's October and November, which is summer here. It's beautiful. People on the beach, to include the guy who kept showing up. He's kind of nude.
He was completely naked.
He shows up every day. But that's
and he laid out like,
you sure he's not from New York?
that
That is some Harlem.
We'll be sitting there drinking our coffee. Yeah, there he comes.
There he comes.
Yeah, there he is. It's laying by that rock again. But that's what he did every day. But we sat there, and we was like, man,
what if
we need to figure out a plan to get here. So like kind of where you guys are now, we were there back in 2013, and it took us 5 years to formalize everything because we had too many commitments in the U.S. and whatnot. But in the meanwhile, we kept coming back.
Oh my God.
And so when it was time, so people always ask us, well, what about that transition? Like, what was that like? I'm
5
like,
years?
It was literally when we finally came here in 2018. It was normal.
Yeah, but also you have to embrace the transition.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that people don't understand. Also, that South Africa is situated, and the way work is situated for a lot of people, not everyone obviously, where you can work from anywhere. Like, you know, it can be accessible, especially if you're in Atlanta. You can go to sleep, you eat 2 meals and you're here. Like even from New York, that United flight out of Newark, right? Like there are all kind of possibilities. You just have to reimagine what's possible. I think one of the challenges though is like, people heard about some home building process in Tanzania or something. It's like, no shade to Tanzania. I love Tanzania, by the way. Wonderful country. But like, insert imaginary African country. And they're like, my grandmother's sister told her that somebody gave $10,000 and they ran off with their money. And it's like, every country is different. That's first of all. Like, people literally need to understand that. That's like somebody telling you about something that happened in Honduras and you live in the United States. Like, people don't understand, like, that is the equivalent. There are people in South Africa who have never been to insert whatever country your grandma's auntie told you about. So they don't know. But what people also don't understand about South Africa specifically is the infrastructure here, especially when you talk about some of these like developments outside of Johannesburg towards Pretoria, which is where we are. Like, they're so used to doing this. They are so used to creating these transactions. They almost walk you through the entire process. There is no way that I could build a house here and be in America without having like all the people that I have
resources.
Like available to support me in this process. And I think people think you just like walking out, you standing on a piece of land, you see the land.
You put a flag on it.
You put a flag on it. You paid somebody
Yeah.
$5,000 and then you come back and somebody built a house on your land and now you're in court.
Yeah.
That does happen in some countries,
Yeah.
but that's not happening here.
No,
That's not
no.
what we're experiencing.
Because I think you obviously, we assisted you with
Yeah.
lining the people up and,
Yeah.
and proper people, and people don't realize when, like for example, when you're not here, I'm constantly, vetting these people,
Yeah.
talking to these people, making sure that they do all the proper things. Like for our real estate tour, the facts are like most of the time when people see Americans coming, they like jacking up prices and things like
Yeah.
that. Well, part of my tour, I'm like, that's not whatever the list price is. That's what it's going to be.
Right.
And the builders and the people and the top people in the real estate game that we work with, they're like, oh no, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen and whatnot. So we do a lot of due diligence to make sure everything works. So when you come here now, you're telling me that, oh no, Mark, I just got my I guess you got your land registered today.
Yeah, the deed.
The deed.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, the deed is in your name.
I'm a landowner. Yes, we have the land. We finally have the deed, honey, with all the. I won't say back and forth. It really wasn't back and forth. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't make it.
It's part of the
We had to find the
No,
right
it's part of the
one.
process.
And it's a process to protect you as well.
Yeah,
So
it's a
don't-
process to protect.
So don't
you.
Yeah.
look at it like,
That's
oh my
right.
God, it was so much X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But because of who you're working with, and because we stay on them to the point of like,
Yeah.
don't jack my people around and make
Yeah,
them
no,
squared away.
100%.
They do that to protect you. So I understand. It can be a little bit like, oh my God, my American wants this done right now.
No,
But it is part of the process to make sure that you're good to go, and you have that deed because you suffered. You suffered. No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna
it all works out in the end,
It
right?
does.
It all works out in the end. But I think to your point, like at the heart of your point is like people need to understand that this is not America. Things are not going to work out the way that it does in America. But that doesn't make it terribly difficult.
No.
And it's a beautiful process if you embrace it.
Yeah.
Like it's a beautiful process.
Because the end goal is that you're going to get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You're going to get exactly what you paid for.
Now it's a million decisions. Now this, just like
Yeah.
You've been at this for a while. Like
I know, but you know what? Some people think it's like a subdivision where you like, how the subdivision is like a
Explain it, yeah.
makeshift
Yeah.
house and you just go in and pick the finishing touches.
No.
They don't realize that you're making 200 different decisions just in the living room.
Yeah.
She's like faucets,
I'm
finishing,
like,
tile,
Lord.
wallpaper.
And they're not giving you 2 different wallpapers.
No, it's like,
to choose
hey.
from.
No.
They're giving you 1,000 wallpapers. And then it's like, you have to figure out that. I mean, I'm just, in my mind, I was trying to explain to my husband last night, like the double, what y'all have?
Yeah.
The double glass
Door.
entry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
What is that?
okay.
Yeah.
Because at like a certain point, it's just
Good
like,
man.
okay. like, okay. I don't want to hold up the process thinking about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think people don't realize how much it is. It can be a credit process. I do know that it can be, but I think the interest rate is higher for Americans, isn't it?
Yeah, the interest rate is higher in South Africa in general than it is in the U.S. But you're not working in the U.S. market, meaning that, like for example, $1 is $1 in the U.S.
Right.
But $1 here is today $18.5.
Yeah.
I mean rands,
Rands, yeah.
South
Oh, right,
African
right,
rands.
right.
So you got to kind of do that math as well. So there's some. I don't know. We did a real estate tour. I can't remember what the exchange, what the rate was at the time, but let's say it's 10%, and in the U.S. it's 6%. They're like, well, I want 6%.
Yeah.
But when you start taking that 10%, and then you start adding simply because you're buying in American or U.S. dollars, that it actually goes way down because your dollar has big buying power.
Yeah.
And so it really ultimately works out in the end.
But I mean, I do
Yeah.
suggest people, if they can, like us, to do like a cash purchase.
Yeah.
Like especially, right, you're paying as you go, like 25%
Yeah.
of the process. And then you see, I actually appreciate the system.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate it. So
And it's
not
real.
like-
it's a real system.
It's a real system.
And
I
lawyers
appreciate it.
involved and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've navigated it obviously
Yeah.
before, and then we've helped many other people navigate it as well. And then now you're navigating it. Just another success story. But let me ask you this: so You've been for a while. You've been here many times. So what should people expect on their first time coming through O.R. Tambo International Airport?
Oh, I mean,
What should they expect?
but also that's the best part, you know? It's like the best part. I think seeing people, I think everyone will love South Africa in general. That's the disclaimer.
Yeah.
You know, everyone will love South Africa. There's something for everyone. They have the infrastructure to accommodate people from all over the world, no matter your racial, ethnic background. It is an English-speaking country, so if you have English as even one of the languages you speak, you will be fine.
Yeah.
And they're super accommodating, even around languages. These people, you know, oftentimes in South Africa are speaking 8, 9, 10 different languages.
They move it around.
Yeah, and so they're so lingual and they're so accommodating in that way. But I think as a Black American specifically, if I can speak on that experience, I always say it is just such a ground shifting, spiritual, emotional experience. I mean, because you're just, while you are expecting it to be great, in the back of your mind you're thinking, oh, it's dangerous, let me be careful, let me do this. But the people are so accommodating. They're so nice. You can be in downtown Johannesburg experiencing like smorgasbord, you know, you can go to the neighborhoods market, you can experience like this beautiful urban oasis, incredible fashion with all like the students. And then the very next day you can be like whisked off to a safari, you can see the big five, you have the lions, the elephants.
You got luxury lifestyle.
And even if you're
eat some great food.
Oh, incredible food.
Yeah.
The food is incredible. I mean, they take barbecue. We love barbecue, like Black Americans. They really love barbecue. They love barbecue.
Yeah.
But even if you're not like an outdoorsy person, I tell people, because I was definitely not an outdoorsy person. My very first safari was here in South Africa. And I was just like, how is this different from the zoo?
How dare you?
I did.
Oh my Lord.
I did say that, but I mean, you see that first animal in the wild,
It do something to you.
and you're like, this is not the zoo.
It is not.
This is
This is different. Yeah.
First of all, you see the elephant and you think it's an adult elephant, and then you find out it's a baby elephant, and then you turn around, it's 14 more elephants.
100%.
And it's like, oh, you can never see that at the zoo.
No.
And they're healthy, and they're big, and they're strong, and they're incredible, and it's jaw dropping. But then you can like get all the comforts of home. You can go to the Mall of Africa, you can be at Zara, you can be at Gucci, you can stand at Louis Vuitton store if that's your flavor. You know, you can go get your Fenty Beauty.
Since you are fashion.
I am a fashion girl.
Yeah.
You know, you can get all of the things that you need. You know, people ask even the most mundane questions like, oh, can you get a flat iron? They like, yes, I do.
All these Black women.
I'm like, what's funny? I actually got a flat iron here. I was able to answer it. So I actually did get a flat iron while I was here one time. So I was like, oh, I actually know where you can buy a flat iron. But it's like, you know, all the comforts of, especially if you're an American, you have all of those comforts while also experiencing things that are just like vastly unique, vastly special. It's so much history here. It is home of arguably one of the strongest Black resistance in the world. So you can go to Soweto, you can like see where Nelson Mandela lived. You know, you get all of that history. It's so rich, it's so palatable. And then you can go to Cape Town, you got the beach, you got the mountain views, you got all the luxury. I mean, you can definitely experience incredible luxury here in Johannesburg.
Extreme luxury.
Extreme luxury. Tea at Saxon.
Oh yeah,
I know, isn't that lovely?
5 Four Seasons. Yeah, I mean, it's literally everything that you can experience.
But people think that those things are out there, they're out of their reach, and they actually are not.
What do you
out
mean,
of
like from a price perspective?
From a price perspective.
No, it's like really like. I mean, sure, if you're coming to South Africa with $2 US, it's gonna be out of reach.
Right.
But like, you're gonna run out of money in Bali if you only have $2 US, right? Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, but if you are, you know, if you're just a working American with like a working class background, middle class background, you definitely, like when we were coming to South Africa 12 years ago, like, no, we were on a shoestring budget from time to time. You know, we were in a little 3-seater, snugged up, 14-hour flight in the economy with a baby on us, like saying, God knows where. I mean, she felt like a baby then, but she wasn't.
She was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, she's been traveling forever, but it feels like, right, like compared to a 16.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I come to South Africa when I was in a different economic class.
Okay.
I would say that.
I mean, you have to come up.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but also, hey, if you are where you are, you shouldn't think that South Africa is out of reach.
It's not. It's not. And that's as you guys see, we have many options to come to South Africa. We have our Joburg packages, which has 6, 10, and 13-day packages. And of course, the same for Cape Town. You can come, we can sort it out for you. All you have to do is get your flight, come here, we take care of everything else, and then you'll have a nice testimony as well. And of course, Durban, one of our best locations because it's tropical. And then of course, we have this thing called our ebook, and it's been assisting a lot of people in the information they need if they're looking at transitioning to South Africa.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notifications button so you don't miss out on all things The Real South Africa. Thanks again.